This is the Collecting Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Purse, here with your co-host, Bill Hamill.
I'm so much more comfortable collecting real estate than I am collecting other stuff.
This is the Collecting Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Purse, here with your co-host, Bill Hamill. This morning we interviewed John Geldert. Bill, what'd you think?
I love John. I didn't realize how much we had in common, and I really appreciate his journey through real estate because he went with the small properties and dealt with a lot of those ups and downs and literally had to persevere over many years to get to where he is now.
Yeah, it's such a great story. And somehow, Bill, we end up back at mindset and mentality, like every single episode. I really liked one thing he said was in order to take that leap from your W-2, you have to trust yourself. And it is a leap, and you have to trust yourself to do it.
Yeah, without a certain mindset, someone like John in his journey years ago, especially with a family, he could have just stopped, said, wow, this is really hard. I've got a great union job. I've got a great family, and then just packed it in and did that. But his mindset is what allowed him to continue to drive on.
Yeah, there's the famous question from the Bigger Pockets famous for their last question. What is it that separates successful investors from those who give up or fail? I think you listen to this episode and you get an answer to that question.
Bam, mindset.
John, thank you for being here this morning. We're really excited for this show. Can we get right into it and hear more about your real estate background?
Absolutely, guys, and thanks for having me. I'm super pumped to be here. So my journey started in my early 20s when a very good friend of mine gave me the little purple book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Changed my mindset on what to do with my money, and from then on in, I started buying some single-family properties out in Northeast PA. I was able to buy a house a year for the first 3 years, and then I got super risky and bought a duplex in Queens where I was living. That was back in 2007, right? So I buy this duplex. I did everything myself. I paid for it myself. I renovated it myself. I tried to sell it myself. The market obviously fell apart, so I became a landlord of a duplex in Queens, trying to figure out how am I going to pay this hefty mortgage when I have no experience, running or landlording for local properties. In Pennsylvania at this point, I already had a manager, a mom and pop manager, managing my few single family properties. But now I had to really learn how to vet tenants and how to figure out if they're a good fit for our property, how to deal with all the headaches that come along with it. Fast forward, 2008 came along and took some lumps and properties weren't cash flowing, and it got very tight, and, life changed for me as well. I got married, and my wife saw what was going on, and she's like, why are you dealing with this? You just need to sell the property and stick to what your job is. And at the time, I was a W-2 employee working for New York City. I was a union carpenter. And I said, all right, I'll just stick to my job. This is what I know, and this is the safety I need now that I'm married and I have my own primary residence, and I needed to, support my family moving forward. Was really burnt out from my job. Got uncomfortable at my job and realized that I needed to get back to real estate. Like, real estate was my exit. So I got uncomfortable and started networking. And once I started networking, I realized how people were able to make this into a business, right? And the reason they make it to the business is they don't do it all themselves. So I jumped into a syndication in Covington, Kentucky, learned a ton there and took what they were doing in Covington, Kentucky, and brought that into the market that I was in Pennsylvania. Started buying duplexes and scaled that business to the point where I was able to exit from my W-2 job in 2019, thanks to the passive income that I was created on the side doing multifamily properties. So that's where I'm at right now.
That's awesome. I love that journey. It's not easy. It's not easy. Anybody who thinks that they're going to get into the multifamily or the real estate investing business and think it's just easy are fooling themselves. I guess if you did 4 or 5 years ago, I'm wrong. It has been very easy for so many because of this market. It's as hot as I've ever seen any real estate market, but you've actually lived that beginning time where cash flow is tight. Why are we doing this? I'm working all the time to keep these apartments rented and repaired, and there's no instant gratification or instant cash flow, especially if the market's not really appreciating at that part of the market cycle. It really makes you think, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Love how you graduated with your education and experience to scale your duplex business in Pennsylvania, to then get to a point where it's like, all right, success, cash flow. I'm making some of this. Now how can I make that next big step? So that next big step was what, 2019? What was the shift to say, all right, I'm doing great on these duplexes. So what change did you make to say, okay, now I'm going to make that next step up to big multifamily?
Right. So yeah. So just to go to your point, when I started, there was no Bigger Pockets. Right. You couldn't go on to a platform like Bigger Pockets and ask questions and have people support you. It was just me trying to figure it out as I went along. But to answer your question, it was just economies of scale, right? It was like, all right, I have all these duplexes and it was duplexes, triplexes. It was a mix. I said, I need to have one building where we can go to collect rents, one building where we can make maintenance calls. And I realized that if I wanted to retire from my job in 2019, I was going to have to scale and scale quickly. So I started marketing towards bigger properties. And in 20, it was actually late 2018 is when I closed on a 20 unit. And this 20 unit was a major value add, but I got it at a steal, but at a ton of CapEx, ton of heavy lift, which is what I enjoyed doing. My background was in carpentry, so I enjoyed getting into the mud and really doing significant value adds. So it was really just understanding, this is where I want to be and reverse engineer it. How am I going to get there? Am I going to buy 25 duplexes, or am I going to go out and buy myself a bigger multifamily? And the challenge was, in the market I'm in, there's not many large multifamilies. There's duplexes and quads all day long, but that wasn't going to get me where I needed to be. So I had to really go after the bigger properties, and big for me. And that's what brought me to the 20 unit. And that was ultimately what created enough of the passive income that I needed once it was stabilized to be able to exit my W-2.
John, it sounds like you lived the real estate investor's dream, from reading the Purple Bible to getting your first couple properties, sticking with your job, and then finally being able to exit the job when you turn the investing into a business.
Yeah, when you say dream, it was a nightmare sometimes. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, looking back, everyone, you made it. But you guys know, it's not a dream, but my dream was to be financially free. My dream was to be able to raise my two girls. My dream was to do what I want to do, when I want to do, with whom I want to do it. And right now, yeah, I can say I'm living that dream, but the journey was tough. But knowing why you're doing it and that this is the tried and true way of doing it. And I had a full understanding of real estate. Like Bill said, I educated myself. I turned off sports talk radio. I turned on Audible books and podcasts religiously. And I had a 2-hour commute back and forth to New York City. So I spent a lot of time in the car, grinding the wheel, listening to podcasts, getting my education.
I think that's so important to note that in retrospect, it's the dream, but day to day, it's a grind, and it's hard. It's not easy when you're going through that process. You mentioned your market not having a lot of large multifamily, being about 2 hours outside of the city. I think you said Eastern PA. More specifically, which market is that?
So I'm anywhere from East Stroudsburg up to Tobyhanna. So right
Okay.
when you get over the Delaware Water Gap, we have properties there, and then we have it all the way up into Tobyhanna. So the northeast PA corridor, about a 35-mile radius.
You mentioned having that mindset shift of turning into a business and incorporating teammates. Can you go a little deeper into that and talk about how you were thinking about structuring these deals moving forward?
Yeah. So really, we all are limited on our assets, right? Be it time, be it capital, be it network. And I realized doing it all on my own wasn't going to get me to where I needed to be in the time frame I needed. So once I started networking and saw what the syndication looked like, I didn't want to do something that big, but I could do a JV, right? Or I could bring in a partnership here and there. So I was able to bring in partners that were able to raise capital as well. And once we had capital backing us, you can make the all cash offers and you can waive the inspections and you can get very creative because you could close on these things. As opposed to in the beginning when I was buying them, I was buying them with 20% down and putting the rest on debt and going through the underwriting process. But as the market got more competitive, you had to come in all cash and, be able to be super aggressive with your offers. So yeah, it was just understanding what the competition was doing and how to excel.
Oh, this is great. What I'm hearing, what you bring to the table after just speaking with you here for 5 or 10 minutes, and we've known each other for a few months now, but you get to learn so much more when you do this type of thing, where you've been through a lot of that pain early on. You've had that resiliency to build through those tougher markets, where once that market cycle does shift a little bit, you've already had that resiliency. You're able to bring that to a partnership where some of the other people may not have experienced what you had. That's where you're going to be able to lead the way going forward, because the market is going to shift to some degree at some point. And you also mentioned resources. You build up, everybody's got a different set of resources. You have an interesting set coming from New York, the experience that you have, and being able to bring some money to the table. Also, you can do deals where you're waiving the inspection. Why? Because you're a home inspector. So there's another resource that you're able to utilize and bring to a partnership. What is your favorite role, or where do you want to concentrate as far as how you fit into a syndicated deal going forward?
So be syndicated or be a joint venture structure, it's asset management, right? So like you said, Bill, I've been through some market cycles. I know when things get hairy and deals go sideways, how to handle it and try to bring cooler heads to the meeting. It's great when you have the pro forma, everything looks great, but the rubber meets the road once the deal is closed and now you have to execute this game plan, be it a heavy lift, be it a repositioning of certain tenants. So my superpower would be managing the expectations of individuals in the deal and how to expedite the renovation, right? Dealing with contractors, obviously, I could deal with them all day long. I think that's what scares a lot of people in this business. How am I going to not get taken advantage of a contractor? How do I know if a contractor is good? How do I know if his pricing is right? Sometimes you just have to trust them. But in the very early stages, you can mitigate that by understanding, like, all right, we're doing vinyl plank flooring for 1,000 square feet. If it's taking them 5 days to do 1,000 square feet, they don't know how to do vinyl plank flooring, or they don't have enough people to do vinyl plank flooring. So it's mitigating those issues before it becomes an absorbent amount of cash going into this property and no production.
There's so much value in putting together the right team of people that could fill the different buckets. When you did have that mindset shift, what was your process for looking for a team? How did you start that journey of going into real estate with this new team aspect?
So, being a New Yorker and doing everything on your own, kind of, you're very skeptical about people. But I understood that I have a certain amount of trust. So I'm the type of person that will trust you until you mislead me or you lie to me. And the moment you lie to me, you lost my trust, right? So building a team was difficult. It was literally hiring and firing people just to see the ones that can operate. People, when you first meet them, they put on they put on their best face. They put their best foot forward. They tell you they can deliver the world to you, and 3 weeks later they're falling behind or they're taking another job. So it was difficult to build a team, and it still is now. Even with the market we're in right now, and money being printed and people not being paid sometimes to stay home, it gets even more difficult. So it's really trying to create that culture, right? I get out in Pennsylvania and I get out in the field with people and I treat them exactly how I want to be treated. And that is the biggest thing. That's how I was raised. Treat others as you want to be treated, and I do that every single day, regardless of if they're working with me or by my side or for me. I treat everybody the way I want to be treated, and sometimes I give a little too much. But at the end of the day, I knew what it was like working for the union and just being beat down, beat down, beat down. I don't want to create that culture. I want to create the culture of we're gonna win this together. So that's kind of the way I attempt to do it.
I love that. Wow, I respect that New York cynicism. It's interesting. It seems to be constant whenever there's any discussion with anybody from the New York City area or downstate. They qualify a lot of what they're saying by, just because I'm a New Yorker, I have this cynical attitude, and I can understand it. We're 2.5 hours away from New York City, and I was warned early on. You go visiting New York City. Last thing you want to do is start looking high up at the buildings because someone's going to notice that and pick your pocket. But and getting back into that trust. So now you're scaling. You realize the value of building teams. What was the mind shift change at this point where you're able to get into a bigger deal, but you have team members? You don't necessarily know these people for a long period of time. What mind shift change did you have to make to say, okay, I know I got to get into a partnership, and I've only known these people for a short period of time. What made you comfortable jumping in at that point?
So I believe I'm a good judge of character. Starting at the union in my early 20s, I feel like I can read somebody's temperament. I can read somebody's, emotional maturity, right? On if they're either just giving me a bunch of fluff or they're really talking, they're talking their real game. So it was relying on myself and my own ability to recognize the qualities in people as opposed to just judging, right? I felt like for a long time, and I still do it sometimes. I still catch myself judging people just by the first 3 seconds of talking to them or the first 2 minutes of talking with them. It's really getting to understand why people want to be involved in real estate, be it my property manager, be it some of my maintenance guys, be it some of my CapEx guys. Like, why are they here? Why do they want to work for us? And kind of diving deeper into how much money do you want an hour as opposed to why do you want to work with us, right? And understand the person. So that's really what it is. It's not all about dollars and cents. It's why you're working with us. Why don't you go work with the bigger contractor down the block, right? It's because, I want flexibility. I want to be able to call in sick and not be docked or be fired. So we give them that flexibility.
It's important. You're hiring based off of people's whys and their personality traits more than maybe experience or other things because you know that you can put in the work and build a team if you have the right people.
Exactly.
So now that you have this team, you've gone through these learning curves. How are you sourcing your deals?
So great question. Yesterday, I have some co-star lists, and I was cold calling yesterday. We've done some direct to seller. Uh, a lot of my a lot of my growth in Pennsylvania market was organically. We were able to close on deals that we said we were going to close on. We didn't retrade, and that spread amongst other owners in that area. Now that that's kind of settled down a little bit, I started doing some cold calling recently. I'm part of a JV structure team down south where we have some boots on the ground down south that are sourcing deals, and that's a tremendous JV structure we have down there. So it's cold calling using CoStar, using Reanime, and just hitting those lists and not waiting for brokers to bring me deals.
So you basically boiled it down where you have two markets right now, that Pennsylvania market still working for you, still doing direct to seller there, trying to source some deals. But as you just mentioned, you got into a JV down south. Tell us about that deal. How did you fit in, and what is your role there, and what's the goal for this property?
Yeah, terrific. This was through a local mentorship program that I joined, Wheelbarrow Profits. Big shout out to those guys. That's how I met you, Bill. And I hit it off with a few people that were within the group, and you know was just vulnerable. I told them what I'm looking to accomplish. I told them what I have. I told them what I've been through and the position that I'm in right now, and how I'm looking to scale my business. And they invited me into a deal. It's a 24 unit down in Saraland, Alabama. Our boots on the ground are about 40 minutes outside of it. They showed me their underwriting. We had a bunch of calls on it, and it was a good fit for what I was looking to accomplish. The team had good synergy. Everybody knew their role, different levels of experience, different levels of net worth and capital to bring to the deal. But it was super interesting for me to see how we can bring a team of five together and not step on each other's toes, but still get this deal closed in a relatively short time frame. So that was exciting for me, and it's exciting for me to see really how we can break up these equity structures on a bigger deal as opposed to just having a one-on-one JV partnership.
You know,
Just going to a local meetup can change the course of your career. Just taking that initiative and showing up. And then also, like you said, being vulnerable, being honest about your situation instead of posturing and not finding the right partner because you're not being completely honest. So
So true.
that deal that you're discussing down south, what's the plan for that one? Are you planning on a 2 year refi or exit, or what are you thinking going into it?
So this one's interesting. This one is a true value add. It was a developer who renovated 16 units and ran out of money and had to sell it. So initially, we're going to get all 16 of these leased up. We have four of them leased up right now. Rents have trickled up significantly better than we expected. So it's outperforming our pro forma, which is terrific. Our goal, yes, is to refinance it within 2 years, put long-term agency debt, and probably have about an 8 or 10 year hold on it. In the interim, we are very happy with our management team so far down there. So we are looking at other deals in that same market. Relatively same vintage, relatively the same size, between 20 to 50 units. So yeah, trying to build a portfolio and a solid portfolio down in that market is our goal right now.
so a five-person joint venture. Do all five people have roles through operations, or did a few people take care of the upfront work? Now they step aside, and now a few of the other partners fall into the operations.
So we have everybody has a small role in the operations, right? We have our regular cadence calls every week. Everyone's responsible for being on there. Everyone's responsible for putting in their input. Obviously, the person closest to the deal has a little bit more of the equity because they are going to be doing the appraisals, doing the walkthroughs. Even when we do refinance, they're going to be the main boots on the ground. So everybody does have a role in it, and we broke it up equity shares depending on how much of a role you have, be it taxes, be it the cost segregation, be it in charge of the insurance or renovations or, many levels of it. So and it wasn't a disagreement. We're like, all right, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. This is your strength. This is your strength. And it came together pretty organically.
Man, this gets me excited hearing about a 5 person JV down across the country because there's so many different ways you can structure a deal. And there's so many different deals out there. So if you're willing to put in the time to find these deals, find the partners, there's unlimited possibilities of how you could structure these.
There really is, and there's unlimited ways you can bring value, right? Not everybody has to have $1 million net worth and a portfolio of 100 units under their belt. Everybody can add value to it. It's just finding the people that it makes sense to do it with, and I'm all about the jockey, not the horse. I'm all about doing deals with good people. That a good operator can bring a bad deal and make it a home run. A bad operator can kill a good deal. So I'm all about the people involved in the deal as opposed to the deal itself.
No, and especially you're ready for this. Like we discussed earlier. I think you can fill any bucket at the same time when operations are going. If you'll be able to see in the future a bit, if necessary, where operations might need a little attention, you're able to bring that to that partnership. Knowing that you're in the Pennsylvania market, you're active, you want to be southeast, you're a home inspector. I know that you're a skilled carpenter. Where are you now with your time? To me, being involved in so many things throughout my career, I've boiled it down where I'm really trying to be focused on one or two things. How are you able to reconcile your time with everything you have going on to stay focused on getting into big deals?
That's a real loaded question, Bill.
We've
Yeah,
talked
I
about
mean,
this.
yeah. So it's difficult. I was just having a conversation with my wife the other day. I mean, when you don't have a clock to punch or a boss to answer to, it's very easy to become complacent, right? And I'm my best version of myself when I'm working on a big deal, right? When I'm challenged, right? Trying to up your game every single day. So right now, the way I balance my time is a certain amount of it is following up with previous investors that have been involved in my deal. Obviously, cadence calls with my team down in Saraland, Alabama. Cadence calls with my team in Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, I can't schedule my home inspections as my phone rings. It gets booked, so that's kind of the variable. But I make sure that 5 out of the 7 days a week I am being intentional about getting somewhat uncomfortable. Be it cold calling, being it reaching out to a broker, being reaching out to someone of high net worth and see if they have any interest in getting involved in real estate in the future. Easier said than done, but you got to do those hard things in order to make progress.
Yeah, I think that the time management is something that all real estate entrepreneurs have to struggle with because there's so many moving parts every single day. Do you block out your time at the day before, or do you kind of start the day and see what's on the plate and go from there?
So time blocking, I'm very familiar with time blocking, and I do it when I have obviously meetings, when I have calls. I'm very prompt. I want to be present for every phone call that I have, so I make sure that there's no other distractions around me. Uh, but I don't do as well of a job as I should be, as far as like, all right, I'm going to cold call from 9 a.m. to 9:45 a.m. every Thursday. I haven't gotten that structured yet. I am a dad of two, so I make my kids a priority as well. So I drop them off at the bus at 8:40 in the morning. I pick them up at 3:30. So between 7 and 8:40 in the morning, I'm dad. Between 3:40 and 8 o'clock, I'm dad, and then 8 o'clock, I have meetings, Zoom calls till around 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So I guess you can say I do some time blocking, but one of my main priorities is being there for my girls and letting them realize, that you can think for yourself and you can go out and get anything you want and not just be limited to what they're telling them in school or what they see on TV. They were too young to see me come home burnt out from work. So now they don't think I really work at all, which is funny, but they understand I'm on the phone a lot. So, you know, it's been terrific. And I definitely, we just had this talk the other day with another investors talking about like trying to balance family life and work life. And you can't balance it. It's ebbs and flows, but try to be present when you can, when you have that time with the kiddos.
Yeah, it's hard. It really is. I've been battling with this for a long time. I've been full time real estate for 20 years. And when I was managing properties and managing construction crews and being a real estate broker, I would get home. I started getting into endurance athletics just to try to balance my mind out a little bit. And then I made that transition from being a hands-on property manager, which is great. I've been able to focus on just a few things, but what I've also found was to be a successful multifamily operator, the networking is so key. Something that I didn't do a whole lot of throughout my career being in the management. So now I'm working all night, just like what you were saying. You have all the Zoom calls and these meetings with partners and reconciling all that. So I appreciate anybody who was able to really effectively time block. I know me and Steven have tried to do that to a certain degree over the last year, and I tried to do that well before I met Steven, and to stick to those time blocking schedules when you are, response only accountable to yourself. Geez, I have not been able to really stick to any time blocking whatsoever. I know you're a mindset guy. I do my morning routine. What do you do to, get your day started off correctly so you can really get your mind right? Because every day you've got more to do in any day that you need. So it's so key to get your head straight.
Yeah, so my morning routine got consistent when I was in the union. It was, I'm a gym guy in the morning. I do my morning workout 5, 6 days a week, and it's what keeps me consistent. Spending time on the treadmill or just lifting weights and getting out those endorphins and really getting some clarity. And doing that hard work in the morning, like breaking a sweat in the morning, I think is tremendous. And people don't understand why I still do it, but it's what got me to where I was, right? I mean, it's motivation gets you started, but discipline really gets to where you want to be. And that discipline of getting up in the morning when you want to stay in bed, when there's 6 inches of snow out there and it's sub-zero temperatures, but getting out there and doing it and then getting out is just, you feel tremendous, right? So it's not about what you get at the gym, it's how you feel after the workout, right? And it's been incredible. I've been very loyal to it. When I think back, I don't give myself enough credit for it, but I've been very loyal to it, and that's the morning routine, right? I really want to spend more time reading and meditating, but meditating, my mind just runs. I just have one of those
Join
minds,
the
man.
club.
It's tough, Bill, right? It's tough to shut your mind off, and I had a life coach for 6 months, and he walked me through some things on how to do it. Uh, I've gotten better at it, but by no means is it a routine that I have daily.
Well, let me ask you that life coach, did you get a lot of benefit from that life coach? Is it something that you feel like you'd want to do consistently?
Absolutely. So it was back in 2017, and I was going to join Jake and Gino back in 2017. I had a little bit of momentum, a little bit of success, and I wanted to see how I can scale my business. And I spoke with somebody from Jake and Gino, and they told me the platform they had. And then I reached out to somebody on Brendan Bouchard's team, and the coach said to me, he goes, John, it sounds like a great opportunity, and it sounds like you're super passionate about real estate. But if your mind's not right, regardless of the business you get into, it's going to fail. He said to me just like that. And I knew growing up, in a lower middle class household where scarcity mentality was not scarce by any means, that I had a lot of baggage to unpack. So I literally would break out my laptop at lunchtime while working for the Carpenters Union and unfold my childhood, how I was raised, what my goals were, and it was super uncomfortable. I mean, here I am. I was an athlete most of my life. I'm a carpenter. We don't talk about mindset. We talk about overtime, and we talk about drinking beers with the guys. So it got really real for me. And yeah, I plug into it now. And people I follow on social media are all about positive mindset, and that's all I surround myself with. It's not necessarily within my direct sphere of influence amongst my friends and family, but I reach out further to other people that I may not have a personal relationship with, but I can. It really it really makes an impact on my day to day, the way I handle different struggles in the world and struggles in my business or struggles in my friendships or relationships. How you let that affect your day to day is a game changer.
Every episode we have comes back to mindset. It's just so important for this industry. We might have to change our category from business to health and wellness. I love the early gym routine as well. My first job, I did the same thing. And if you think about someone cold calling like you were yesterday, who do you think is going to be the better cold caller? Someone that woke up early, went to the gym, is feeling good, already did the hardest part of their day, or someone who just rolled out of bed, took a shower, and now they're sipping their first cup of coffee? It's going to be the guy that got those endorphins out, and they're already feeling on top of the world. So sticking to the mindset, going back to someone who has maybe 2 to 4 residential properties, they're just starting their portfolio, but they're still working W-2. They want to do this full time. What mindset shift do they need to have in order to be a full time investor?
Well, obviously they have to understand, what they're trying to accomplish being in real estate, right? Everyone has different goals. Some people may want to just make passive income of $500 a month. Some people may hate their job and want to retire. Some people may want to buy a boat. I understood my why. My why was to get out of my W-2 job. I had to replace my W-2 income. Advice for somebody that has a small portfolio right now and is looking to scale: get out and meet people, get out and network, and get out and try to scale your business through building a team. That's really what the game changer was for me. And that would be the advice. And it's difficult. It's difficult to go to a networking event and talk about yourself, or what am I going to say to anybody? This guy has this many deals and I'm brand new, but it's getting over that limiting belief. Everybody has value to add. Everybody has value to bring to a conversation. It's just understanding that and taking action and start getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, and being intentional when you're going to a networking event, you're actually thinking about what you're trying to accomplish there. You're not just
So
going
true.
in winging it. You're there for a reason. So it looks like you're getting out of your comfort zone. It sounds like that's something that you're making a habit of. Going back to what you were saying, breaking out your laptop at lunchtime while you were a union carpenter. I giggle because I've talked to several firemen in New York City, and I can picture the environment there. And did guys in the
It's
union
true.
see you doing this? And talk about being vulnerable. What did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I got mocked. I got mocked, and people are like, oh, Geldert thinks he's gonna leave the. I was a civil servant for New York City. Okay, it's a cushy job. It's a great job. You got great benefits, great pay. The environment wasn't great though for me, and I got mocked by it, and it was fine. I blocked it out. Like I was so plugged in, and I was so laser focused on what I was trying to accomplish. I wasn't doing anything for anybody else. The people I work with were great, but I wasn't doing it for them. I was doing it for me. Like this, you guys enjoy this job. This job is eating away at me. Like I have a full life to live, and this job is taken away from my life. Like I want to go out and live life. You guys just want to work overtime. And when they talk to me, why don't you work weekends? I was like, I got kids. I want to spend time with my kids. I got sporting events. I got parties to go to. I want to go to the beach. So it was fine, and they doubted me, of course. And when I left, and when I was one of the youngest guys to retire from there. When I left, and we had the retirement party, everyone was shocked that it was the youngest guy sitting at the table, and they were like, "Well, how did you do it now?" And I was like, "I've been telling you this for months, guys, and years, and you guys just didn't want to plug in." Which is fine because they weren't ready. I mean, people are fearful of it, right? Like, I got my pension, I got my 401, I got my deferred comp, and all they were worried about was feeding that, not feeding their future. And I just wanted to feed my future as quickly as possible, so I can start living life again. So yeah, it was difficult, but at the end of the day, this was my journey. This wasn't their journey, and I was living it for me and my family, and not for them.
At that point, at your retirement party, what was that dynamic where, now you've made the decision, you're retiring, you're moving on. Now they're talking to you. Geez, how did you do this? Did you sense where, they're envious of you being able to leave, where any type of attitudes where they're trying to bring you back in, where they don't want you moving on because it does something to them?
Yeah, it was a combination of everything. It was a combination of some were like, all right, we're so proud of you, but we think you'll be back. You have 2 years to come back. Others were
Mm.
like, oh, now he thinks he's too good. And others were just, I had empathy because they felt stuck. Like, it's not the greatest environment to work in. And I was with the housing authority. So I was working in the projects, and all the guys are working in the projects with me. So it wasn't the greatest environment, but a lot of them just
Mm.
felt stuck. They didn't know how to make a move. They didn't trust themselves enough to take that leap, which I think a lot of people that are on the fence, they don't trust themselves enough to take that leap. And the reason they don't trust themselves is probably because they haven't educated themselves enough. They're not surrounding themselves with people that will really help rise them up and show them somewhat of the way. So it was a combination of it all. And again, at the end of the day, I laughed it off, but I had empathy for some that truly wanted to be involved in what I was doing, but just felt stuck.
Yeah, they're to that point where they need to reflect, see how they have to get out of their comfort zone, lean into it. You getting out of your comfort zone, leaning into it, resulted in you exiting that job, which was a bad environment. And now you're able to see the light on the other side, and it's up to you to accomplish, your goals going forward, which looks like you're well on track to do. John, this is the Collecting Real Estate podcast. So they say you have to have 3 of something to make a collection. We have 3 questions for you to finish up this episode. Number 1, what is your 1 to 2 year business goal or goals?
So my 1-year goal is to get over 200 units of 200 units, right? Be it doors, be it mobile homes, parks, or slips. But it's to get to 200 doors. My other real estate goal is to start a meetup. Bill, you were super inspirational when I met you in Westchester, where it was 10:30 at night and we were wrapping up. And I said, "Where are you staying tonight?" And you're like, "I'm driving home." Now I had an hour drive and you had a 2.5-hour drive. And my goal is to start a meetup in Pennsylvania where I have my management team, where I have my crew, where I feel like I can really be a good influence out there. And I was thinking, well, it's 2.5 hours away. And now here Bill is doing it. And I'm like, there's no excuses now. So my goal is ultimately to start a meetup out in Pennsylvania and just try to add value to people that are looking to get involved out there.
No, that's awesome. You know, I can relate. We can relate so much. Well, let me speak for myself, but boy, going out to White Plains that night and speaking was something that I would not have done a year ago. So I really know the value of leaning into uncomfortable positions and getting past that, because it is so much brighter on the other side. So I appreciate you wanting to start that meetup. You'll be very happy you did. Number 2, your 1 to 2 year personal goal.
So this year I want to run a marathon. I ran a half marathon a few years back, and you're a runner, Bill. You know how difficult it is to train. But my goal this year is to run a full 26-mile marathon.
Wow. Maybe you do need the time block.
So the training changes, right? So like Steve was talking about, the gym routine's fine. But when I ran a half marathon, the gym routine became a running routine, right? So instead of going for a 45-minute lift, you're going for a 45-minute run. And it changes. Like your body changes, you get used to it. It's just constantly putting in those reps.
No, and that makes perfect sense. So I was a gym guy through my 20s, and then I played adult baseball, adult basketball, and then got into running, and ultimately just replace what you're doing. So do I go to the gym? No, I never go to the gym. At this point, I just run, bike, and swim, and then that's my new routine. So no, I appreciate that. Last question is, how can Steve and I or the listeners assist you, and how do we contact you?
Yeah, so it's just if you're not connected, get connected. And if you are connected, stay connected, right? It's easy to meet somebody at a meetup that you want to talk with and never follow up with them again. So I love talking real estate. Most people that have been doing it for long enough enjoy it and can add value. And I really enjoy speaking with people that take action, not just people that are looking at deals and underwriting deals for the last 2 years and are too nervous to take action. If you're an action taker, reach out. The best way to reach out to me is by giving me a call, 516-359-0539. I'm on social media. Instagram is JT Geldert, Geldert.
That's fantastic, John. I see that you are clearly a guy that takes action, mindset guy, getting out of your comfort zone. Love it. It's all the things necessary to take it to, whatever level you choose. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you, guys. It was a blast.
Thanks, John.